Howdy everyone out in Twitch land. Welcome back to Hex Center. I have two fantastic individuals with me. Well, for as long as I can keep them. I have Funktion.
Hey, hey, hey.
And I have Gwaer.
Hello.
And I can keep Gwaer as long as Cryptozoic keeps delaying the email.
Yep. Once we get those alpha invites. Well, he's got to download the client too.
Oh,
right,
true.
you have a portion of me. You have whatever of me it doesn't take to sit here and spam refresh on my email client.
Oh, most definitely. But I'm glad to have even this small portion of you and maybe a little bit of a side conversation if you actually finish downloading before we're finished.
So, I mean, we were gonna start with Sapphire, but I have more important things to talk about than card spoilers.
Oh
nobody cares about Hex card spoilers. What everybody cares about is Headless Horseman.
Oh,
or
yeah.
Headless Executioner. Unless we wanted to start with something else.
Well, it was we had a lot of fun with the Headless Executioner last time, so it's at the start. Let's bring it up. What's up with your Headless Executioner?
Well, besides him being the best flavor card in the entire game, wherever he is, he's somewhere in here. Oh, I got an email. Nope, denied. It's just that we started streaming. All right, let me bring Hex Executioner up on my screen. All right, so we don't really care that he's a 5/3 with unblockable for 5, which is decent. It's pretty good. What we care about is that he's got the most lore. He's kind of buff. Like, they need to make him look more orky. He needs to be the very here's what he is. He's a time traveling orc. He's actually Zoltog from the future, in like hipster form because of the scarf. He's come back in time to kill himself because he does like some horrible act that sends Hex world into a downward spiral, and that's why he's emo about it with his scarf. Is he'll never forget the atrocities he's committed, so he's gone back in time to execute himself like Looper.
Oh, man.
So he does kind of look like a human, which is, so he's necrotic. I mean, that's the idea, but my idea is they need to change that. He's got to be an orc, because he's got the huge axe. All the orcs have huge axes. That we're not going to go there. That
actually makes sense though. Why he's headless is because he is actually an orc, and the necrotic really don't like that. So they changed him up, put him some makeup on to make him look more pale, and cut off his head so you can't tell he's an orc. So that makes perfect sense.
Well, that and like the necrotic, they put the gems in their eye sockets. See, maybe I do care a little bit about lore. That's pretty much all the lore I know about Hex is they put the gems in the eye sockets. So that's why he cut off his own head and then went back in time. Like, he was that angry about being turned into a necrotic. He's never going to let it happen again. And so he's going back in time to kill himself so that he prevents himself from becoming a necrotic. and so that's the idea, right? And there was something else. But yeah, they need to change him to make him look a little bit more orky. But yeah, it's totally Zoltog. It's from the future. He's come back in time, and this is going to be like set 7 when they do it. Like, yeah, you heard it first. Set 7 is going to be all about Zoltog's downward spiral, and then the third set in the block is going to be him going back in time, and like it's going to be just like Terminator. It's going to be awesome.
Instead of Urza's saga, Hex is going to have Zoltog's saga.
Yeah, totally. I that would totally be the most awesome thing ever.
I dig it.
If it makes me almost wish I was a Dragon Lord, or whichever one gets to design their own dungeon, because then I would be able to make sure that made the game. And right now, like, that's what it would be. It would be boom. I just came up with my dungeon.
Now, we do happen to have the contact info thanks to the Twitch stream of one of the Dragon Lords. One of the producers is going to be making his own dungeon. I think his name is Colin.
Wait, what were you saying? Oh,
well, Colin can design his own dungeon. All you have to do is keep whispering for
convince Colin
for the next couple years. All right, let's burn through. So on our, do y'all remember how long it took to do the we were on for last time?
6 hours, 12 minutes.
Yes.
Of agonizing commentary.
Well, it was mostly me talking about Headless Executioner.
Well, and fish hands. Oh my goodness.
Fish hands took a lot.
All right. So, do we have before we get too deep into it, are we good on sound? Is anyone cutting out? Chat, tell me what's going on.
Bafferty says that we're cutting out for him, but he's European, so I mean,
Well, don't say all their servers are bad.
Yeah, and John says we're working fine. So
All right, cool. Okay. So when we last left off, we finished picking our Ruby picks, and we were about to start Sapphire. So, taking a look at Sapphire, we have two fantastic cards at the start of it, and another constant that gets turned into 2 life. So what do we think of starting off with Air Superiority? It's a 2 for 1 Sapphire threshold constant. Troops you control with flight get +1/+1.
honestly, this is a pretty strong card. Surprisingly, I was surprised with how well it worked in the blue flight deck at Gen Con, and I think if you're going to run that card that puts a bunch of 1/1 flyers in your deck, then you've got to run this too. But you're not going to get it out after you start going off with those, so it's sort of a chicken and the egg problem.
oh, you're gonna get it out just as likely. Like, I still have a lot to say about Ancestral Chosen or whatever the guy's called. Like, it's not a cantrip. Those guys, like, they just add an ability to the card you would have drawn anyways. I keep saying that, but I'll say it again. Anyhow, what I would say is the presence of Heatwave makes this card that much more of a necessity if you are playing Ancestral Chosen or whatever. Like, because Heatwave would sweep down all your flyers that you put all that work into, but Air Superiority takes them out of range.
Yeah, because those are 1 for 2/2 flights, right? That cantrip.
Yeah, 2/2 flight, draw a card when they come into play, unless they've been changed.
That's true. We haven't been down there yet, but this is not a bad card. I think if you're playing a flight heavy deck, it's good to add it to your deck. Honestly.
Yeah, and a 2-cost Anthem is great. Yeah, so they haven't changed the Ancestral Spectre. I just went and checked.
Oh, Archmage Renlock has gone through a small nerf, hasn't he?
A big change.
Huge nerf, huge change. Yeah, I wouldn't even call it a nerf. It's a huge change.
So, I mean, because he allowed a card draw before when you played an action, but he reduced the cost of all your actions by 1. Now it's just the draw a card effect.
But they also upped his defense. Before, he was super, super vulnerable. Like, he had 2 defense, and like Gwaer was saying yesterday, like, anything with 2 defense, you have to kind of scratch your head of whether it's playable or not, just because, it's gonna get hit with burn, it's gonna get hit with a lot of stuff, it can't really block effectively, and all kinds of different things.
So, the question is would you still include him in your Sapphire deck?
Well, I think the question still is a little one-sided. Like, I don't know if I would have to begin with. The decks he went into before were not just like, I'm playing Sapphire, so I'm going to include him. Because you have to be playing enough actions for this to be warranted that he is something you want to play rather than a 4-drop that is more effective. That's just my 2 cents.
My thought on it before was, if you're playing a good Sapphire tempo, you have a couple creatures that put in your tempo abilities, but when they started releasing all of your actions that were good counters and good tempo cards, and maybe if you tempered the Sapphire deck with a few red actions, reducing those costs, getting that additional card really allowed you to be flexible. I like that it still gives you the card here, but that not getting that flexibility for keeping him in play, I think pushes him into a different style of deck than a tempo deck now.
Actually, looking at it a little bit more, I think the potential to chain out a bunch of cards on turn 5 is a little less likely, but the change that he doesn't reduce the cost isn't all that significant for me. Like, you play him turn 4, you weren't going to be able to play a card anyways because he couldn't reduce cost to below 1 before. Now that he can, it's like, or now that he doesn't reduce it, it doesn't really matter because you weren't going to do anything till the next turn anyways.
Now, one thing, we don't have the Transcendent on this spoiler set list, but as he was spoiled before, the reduction in costs that occurred, plus being able to draw a card, was really high-level combo, maybe? Is one way to put it. But now since Renlock no longer reduces, it really lowers the scope of some of the major actions that you could transcend out, while still keeping in that draw tutor for when you start playing actions.
Yeah, I'll let Renlock go, but all I was gonna say is like before he made me want to play cards that I didn't really want to play, and what was it? Peak was the main one I was saying in chat. Like, that's not a card I want to play. And the fact that I'm including it in my deck with Renlock maybe, or if you're going that route, like if you don't draw Renlock the entire time you're playing Peak, you're really not happy with yourself. So, there's, I don't know. I'm not all that unhappy with the change, although he doesn't make, the old version didn't make Peak any better than the current version, so I guess that doesn't really matter, what I was just saying.
But we do have a tempo all-star right next to Renlock, and that's the Buccaneer.
Yeah.
Alright, so let's make sure they didn't change anything on him. So 3 for 2/2. When he enters play, put target troop into its owner's hand, and if you do, it gets permanent cost +1. I don't think they changed anything out on him, did they? He wasn't like a 3 for 3/3 or anything like that?
Same.
He's still a very, very high limited pick.
Yeah, extremely high limited.
And totally still playable and constructed. Like I was saying, I'm looking, probably one of the decks when I get in today, one of the first ones I'm going to be building is like a Sapphire Ruby tempo, and he fits right in there.
Yep. Alright. So, let's move on down. We have a 3 for 1/4 Dwarfen Rogue. Vanilla Troop.
I like this guy's art. I like this guy's sort of vibe that he's got going on. A 3 for 1/4, I don't know that I care for though.
Yeah, and he needs to feel more roguey. Like if he's gonna be a dwarf rogue, he's got to have some like roguey text. He's got to have some rules text in there.
But apparently he is a master of camouflage and can mimic any rocky area and silently pass through solid stone.
Like I want to see maybe exhaust an artifact, he becomes unblockable.
Yeah, maybe that'll be because
later evolution.
He's more of a blocker. I mean, he's positioned in a very not rogue way. I guess is just what's weird about it.
Yeah, and like the picture, he looks like a badass, but 1/4, not such a badass.
True. He's vanilla. He helps train. I guess he's going to help train on defensive blocking. But then we have Chronic Madness.
Why did Sapphire get all the 1/4, the 2/5? Like, I mean, I understand why they did, but man, they really got like a large heap of the it's just for new players kind of thing.
Well, that's because then they have things like Chronic Madness, an escalation mill mechanic.
Yeah, Chronic Madness is an interesting card. I really don't think Mill's going to be great right out of the gate, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I've seen a lot of interesting Mill deck ideas that could really play well, but I like this card. Just I think it'll be strong at some point in the future.
Unless Mill becomes broken, it's never something I'm excited to play. Like, I'm never excited to play Mill except when it's combo Mill. Like, in this sense, this isn't directly combo Mill. It might be, if you're doing something else to play a bunch of cards. But, like, it's just never something I'm excited to be playing as an archetype.
I first came across Chronic Madness because someone left a comment on one of my Alpha Tech videos, and we were, I was trying to go for like infinite turns because I thought Master Time Bug, that's the reason how he conquered time, trying to do like janky flavor sort of thing. And with the Transcendent and Renlock in play, Chronic Madness, after just one use of the oh goodness, I can't remember its name all of a sudden. Dream Dance, I believe, reduces the cost, draw a card. You could Chronic Madness multiple times and then deck your opponent, and I think in the 5th Madness. And so the commenter brought this up, is like, why are you trying to do a bunch of time bugs? Why don't you just Chronic Madness them to death? I'm like, that was amazing.
Well, like, and my thing is, like, if you're gonna Chronic Madness them to death, why don't you just Rage Fire them to death? Like, that's gonna be more likely, and Rage Fire is gonna be more useful in cases, like, it's gonna be more flexible for you.
Well, and I think in that case it might just be the flavor of how you want to beat him, because if
Yeah.
because at that point we're talking like solid tutor combo deck that you have to really work out making sure the Transcendent stays in play.
Yeah.
And I guess,
Well,
and that's a discussion for another time, I suppose.
sure. I mean, then Chronic Menace can be a one of. But yeah, we'll move on. There's a lot of intricacies in there, but yeah.
Now then we have the 3 for 1/2 Clear Sky Stormcaller. Basic tap, deal 1 damage to target exhausted troop. I think this guy pairs off with some of the other Coyote, like the diamond one.
I mean, he does. There's definitely some interaction there, but he's too much for a deal 1 to target troop, in my opinion. I don't like him.
So that the target troop is so conditional, like you can only do it to exhausted troops, is kind of unfortunate, but Umar already beat me to it. What I was going to say is, since Blood Aura is an instant, what is kind of nice is what you do is you leave your resources open, your opponent attacks with 2 creatures, you in response you put Blood Aura on this guy, void the first one, the one that's going to hit you hardest. On your next turn you void the other creature that's currently exhausted, and you're in decent shape there. If you have something that lets you exhaust other troops, you're in decent shape. That one that I spoiled last week isn't enough though, because then you're losing a lot of card value. So there's some potential there if you have ways to exhaust other troops and then void them with the Blood Aura. But what I was getting at with having to wait to your opponent to attack with 2 is that since he only has 2 defense, you're really opening yourself up to get 2 for 1 if you put Blood Aura on him, so you need to make sure that you're getting value right off the bat.
Now, just as a thought, this comes in now, it's in the 3 slot, which we've already, when we were discussing last night, is a very powerful, valuable slot. So the thought is that if you drop this on turn 3, does your aggro decks hold off, or do you think they just press on the gas to get through this guy?
I've actually got to interrupt real quick because the Blood Aura does only kill if it would die. That is what it does. If a troop is dealt damage by this troop this turn would die, void it instead.
I didn't see the would die clause. I thought we were going over it last night and we didn't see it.
Oh no, it's there.
No, I do remember
there.
I do remember you saying that it just kills anything, and I didn't correct you. But yes, it does actually.
I have the PDF open. I'll read it word for word. Target troop gets permanent plus things, and if a troop dealt damage by this troop, yeah, I was even saying. How did I miss it? I think it's just because it's like the last word and the first word, and it says would die. Okay, yeah. Never mind. I take back every thing I was saying.
Yeah,
even that's
Blood Aura is still not that great.
Yeah, it's still bad.
Yeah.
But it is better than Sara.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's why I'm fail. Maybe.
All right.
I mean, it gives it +1 attack. It makes your guys attack harder. Yeah, so that guy, even in limited, you might play him. He's gonna kill like their Savage Raiders or something, stop those from hitting you. But meh.
All right. Well, then moving on down. Gwaer, you want to talk about our wonderful Cloud Titan?
Sure. Cloud Titan's a 5-cost 2 Sapphire threshold. Gives you 4/4 with flight. I like a 4/4 with flight, and for 5, it's on cost. Honestly, it's not a bad card, especially if you have like an air superiority, and it's a 5/5 for 5 with flight. So I mean, I like it.
Yeah, I still think it's funny that this one's an uncommon and that Boulder Brute is a common that basically is identical to Cloud Titan, but is flexible in other ways. Sure, right. In order for Boulder Brute to be Cloud Titan, you have to play Sapphire and Wild together, which, hey, I mean, there's a lot of cards that work well in that deck. I've looked at it a couple times. I'm talking at limited here, but yeah, I think it's really funny that Boulder Brute is a common that can be this guy and be so much more.
I mean, I definitely think that Boulder Brute is way above curve. Like he is a card that is designed to be better than many cards. So yeah. I mean, he's a great card. Boulder Brute's fantastic.
It's definitely funny. Like really early on, I totally missed how good Boulder Brute was, and then lately I'm like, is this card better than Boulder Brute? That's kind of like my limited high cost evaluation these days.
Oh man, that means we have good benchmarking there. Now, our next one is the Devoted Emissary. This guy seems new to me so far. 4 for 4/3, 1 threshold. When this troop enters play, put a troop you control into its owner's hands. So this seems to be a self-cycle since it's one we control, right?
Right, and it doesn't do anything negative to the card either, so... I mean, it can do some things, like we were talking about the other day with the new Honeycap, you know? If you were running blue-green for some reason, you could cycle your Honeycap back into your hand and play it again for the permanent buff, but... I haven't seen a whole lot of decks that could make use of this card yet. I have a feeling it could be a useful card in the future.
So, I would like to see the card fill more of a build-around role. Is that either it's a 3-cost 4/3, so then it's like a little bit ahead of curve, but it comes with the drawback of having to return something, and if you're playing it on curve, like you're hurting yourself a little bit in that regards. So I would like to see it in that, or I would like to see it be a 5-cost one that can be played as a quick action. Although, I mean, that's really powerful. There's a lot you could do there.
Yeah, that's extreme.
That's me just wanting to see, like, how could this card be more attractive? And those are two of them. Yeah, it's still an interesting card.
So for a common, do you think it's appropriately costed?
I guess based on what I was just saying, sure.
Yeah, I mean, a 4/3 for 4 isn't out of the realm, especially in blue. I mean, blue's troops are generally a little on the weaker side just for troop aspects, and I mean, I think the effect is interesting enough for it to be worth the 4.
What I was going to respond to Ice Pick in chat is I think that one is one where we're just going to, the way Hex is going to work is I think there's a lot of times where they've worded 2 cards different ways, but they work the same kind of thing. I was going through the spoiler last night, and there's a lot of kind of just weird stuff. It's like, why did they do this? Actually, maybe we'll go to one real fast. Is Hellhound? Can you bring that up, Mokog?
Hellhound, that is the Ruby card, right?
Yeah, it's Ruby. So, but like, I think you're still going to keep it. I think almost all effects are permanent. The only time you wouldn't keep the troop Ice Pick is if it was like until end of turn, maybe. And so then like, even then, I don't know.
And here's Hellhound, so he gets you can put on the +1 until for that turn, and then with the socketable miner.
Okay, so what I like here is that Hellhound and Goreseeker are on the same panel, so we can see it pretty well. Hellhound is the only card I've seen so far where it says it gives it +1 and not +1/+0. It like, I like that, like the real estate that saves. And I was almost going to say put that like in the bug reports, that it's kind of weird that they worded it like that. But I do like the real estate it saves. But then when I'm looking at it again, from like, if you're playing really fast, you're taking your turns quickly, and you're not spending a lot of time, then something like this might actually be bad, what Hellhound has, because then when you're looking at cards where it's just +1 defense for the turn, you're more likely to read it wrong. I mean, yeah, that's like a loose play, a sloppy mistake, but I think this card should just be +1/+0, like everything else is, like Goreseeker is with Rage. Every single other card that has an ability like this, it says +1/+0, and I think they need to be consistent. Like, they just need to have, if they're already using that, they need to just stick with +1/+0.
Yeah, they could be testing it out. It's probably, I'll call it an intern mistake.
Yeah, I do really like, though, that it saves real estate. Like, any time that they can just cut out text off a card that's totally unnecessary, it's a good thing, and that's what they're doing there. But this might be a case where that's not a good thing. Anyways, we can keep going.
All right, so
this Eldritch Dream right here, I love. It's a socketable major for 4, a 3/3 socketable major for 4.
And he can't be
pretty
blocked.
happy about that.
So what gems are you putting in there, Gwaer? What are you excited about?
I mean, honestly, it depends on what my deck is, but I mean,
yeah,
it's a good strong card. I mean,
you can turn it into a Hypnotic Spectre where they have to discard a card every time it connects. You can turn it into Resource Destruction if you're going like the blue-red tempo route, and this is the top destruction. Of the curve. Oh, that becomes pretty dumb.
It's such a good card. It is crazy strong. Like, I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing it. I haven't gone through this in advance, and I just from the look, I love this card. And also, I think it's apt that isn't that the guy from the producer background or the immortal background or something, very high on card sleeve, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, so this guy's a card. So we've seen this guy already. He's a card
Well,
sleeve guy.
we've seen that guy. I don't know if the squid was behind him, but we've definitely seen that guy.
Well, it
I like
definitely.
the squid in the background. That's cool.
Well, it really touches on what they wanted to do with Void. So Corey's mentioned in a couple different interviews about the Void Society and how that kind of affects on the PvE side, and it is very much Cthulhu inspired. So you've got the squid motif plus the spell book, and all sorts of scariness going on. Like you can put some suspenseful music in the background, and this guy, I mean, he's got tentacles coming out of his eyes.
Yeah, I like the Cthulhu feel of all the Void-based cards. Real quick, I was just going to say, in case you're just tuning in, we actually have a decent number more subscribers or followers right now than last night.
Oh, man.
You got Mocog, you got Gwaer, you got me, Funktion, in the channel right now. Also in chat, though, you have, like, half of the other fan site people are in chat. So, if you're... I think that's cool. We're all just kind of chatting with each other, keeping ourselves busy while we're waiting for stuff to come out.
Welcome, our brothers in arms with computers.
You got at least 2 people from Hex TCG Pro. You got Ice Pick from Casual site. I think got a couple other people maybe too, but I'm just going through it real quick.
So thanks for watching. We love having everyone here.
Yeah, something fun to do, something to kill time.
So Eldritch Dream, I like him. I think he's going to go constructed.
Yeah, the fact that he's the producer tier sleeve, I think, is very apt with how good that card is, because I love it.
Yeah, I think that it's pretty unanimous. I don't think there's anywhere it's like, this is a bad card. Yeah, I mean, it's good.
Now, the interesting thing I notice here is that he is not Underworld. This Void Touched is Ardent.
Yeah, well,
that's going to be some flavor right there.
They made... that might be a mistake. They already said that there was a couple that got the icon that weren't meant to. I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the developers.
It was the Paladin of Nagan and the Rogue Coyote.
Is it Mike Rosenberg? Is that the name? Well, whoever, one of the Cryptozoic team was saying so.
All right. Anyways. So let's move on down to our next one. We have one of the recently spoiled Elite Battletech, the 6-for-1/2. When this troop enters play, create 2 worker bots and put them into play. Exhaust 2 worker bots you control to exhaust target troop. Now, we have not reviewed artifacts yet, but I know that some of the stuff has been changed, and this guy has to play into a lot more robot strategy now. And the chat, don't spoil it yet. We're going to do artifacts after this.
Yeah, they definitely they definitely saved a lot of... This might be the best card in the game. That Howling guy, the mana dude. He's definitely might be the best card. That last one we were talking about might be the best card. Warlock Inquisitor might be the best card. Although that one they didn't save. But there's definitely a lot of... This might be the best card. The set is super bomby. There's not just like 1 or 2 bombs and that's your chase card, and the rest of the set is horrible, which I appreciate. It's going to make drafting interesting.
Well, and again, they did a super large focus on drafts, so it's definitely a thing. That's probably why we have so many things that look like bombs, because you have to choose.
Yeah. So what do we got? We got a Elite Battletech. Is that what we were talking about?
Yep. Yeah. So the 6-for-1/2 drops in 2 worker bots when it comes into play, and you can exhaust 2 robots to exhaust target troop. Hope you don't get heat waved with this sucker, though.
Yeah. Right. I think he's got, like, if I remember right, he's got a really cool equipment. He's got that going for him.
Yeah, he had something going on. I don't remember what it was. From what we see here, I guess. All right. The thing is, if he becomes a problem, he's really easy to remove. And if they just have to throw a burn at him, sure, it's a burn. They're not going to throw at something else. But they just 1 cost killed your 6 cost troop. So
he's cool with Volcanon though.
That's true. I mean, he can do a lot of interesting stuff. I don't know. I
just think it's just because he gets heat waved so easily, and it kills all of his worker bots, and it takes him out.
I want to say there was something really great that he could do. I don't remember whether it was PvE or PvP.
It was some PvE thing with equipment, I think. But
all right. Yeah. But now we have the Flock of Seagulls, the card that used to be a hairstyle.
They need to like, well, it's the band, but
Band, yeah.
yeah, they need to like make this feel a little bit more Hitchcock to me.
Oh, so
I
it looks
don't know. I think that they're pulling two different ways because they did the "You Can't Run Away" from the band, and also it's got sort of the birds Hitchcock motif. So I think that it's good. They shouldn't hyper focus on either
Yeah.
one of those.
But hey, Mokog, you should change your stream real fast to say Hex Hunter now playing Hex. Like that'll show up a lot more.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, somebody was pointing that out, and I crossed my mind earlier, and I forgot to mention it. But it's in like the admin. You know how to do it, right?
I can probably go find it.
Yeah. Anyways, what do we got next? We got so I mean, Flock of Seagulls. We didn't really talk about it much. We were just talking about the flavor, which is pretty much what we did with all the cards last night, anyways.
I think Flock of Seagulls is a pretty good defensive creature. I mean, prevent all combat damage. You can remove him in a myriad of other ways, but just as a blocker, a 2/01 blocker, he's pretty good.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he was good at Gen Con. Well, sometimes he was just like a dead card, but and I think that the potential that he's just sometimes a dead card. If I'm gonna play him, it's probably gonna be in the sideboard. Like, there's just a lot of decks where running him doesn't help you. If they're playing Shinhair or something, who cares if you only blocked one of their guys? But
that's true. Unless it's a 91/91 Mushwaki.
Yep. What do we got next? Menacing Grolk.
Oh, I remember someone having a wonderful love for this card a little earlier. Do you still have it?
Wait, what were you saying?
I remember you dedicated a fantastic video to Menacing Grolk.
Oh, was it? It was like a what's the pick Menacing Grolk versus I don't even know what it was. What was he up against? It was Menacing Grolk versus like one of the Bomby Dragons or something.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, it was something. I can go back and check, but yeah, it was I think it was like, what do you first pick, or what would you rather first pick? It was this and some other pseudo Bomby card, and I was like, oh, this one most of the time, because there's just a lot of potential to play this guy and be able to swing in 2 turns in a row for a ton of damage, if as long as you already established your board. I think though, was he a 2/3 before?
I was thinking he was a 3/3 before.
I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, they
In
might
fact,
have changed him.
I think they reduced his attack down because he used to be.
2/3.
He was a 3/3.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
recently
he was
did a
a 3/3
video
before.
that had him as a 3/3 because I
can
compared
go
him
back
to
and look at my video,
Titan.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean, he's still a good card regardless. Hey, Gianni.
Welcome. Yeah, I mean, I still like him. It's mostly because I really like, part of it's nostalgia for a cool effect, because I like that can't ready during the controller's next ready step. That was actually one of the card's effects on Paladins in the WoW TCG. They had an ability to hammer their opponent. They could take either their champion or their troop and keep it from readying that step, and then drew a card. So I look at this and I'm like, oh, they're bringing in WoW mechanics. That makes me happy.
Okay, so yeah, Grolk was definitely. Oh, whoops, I'm messing myself up there. Yeah, Grolk was definitely a 3/3 before. And my thing was Grolk versus Murder. If they're in the same pack, what do you pick? But definitely when it was a 3/3, I'd take Grolk, and I'd probably still take it. Like there's just so much potential, like for this to win you the game when you play it. Murder's still extremely good, but yeah. Anyways, what's up next?
Let's move on down. New looking card, new art for sure. Mesmerize. Basic action. When this target troop gets permanent, this troop can't ready.
Anything with cats on it definitely gets points in my book. I don't even care what the card is. It's got cats. Oh, Gianni says first wave has been sent. You might want to refresh your email there, Gwaer.
As we all take 2 minutes to take a look.
I got nothing yet.
Yep. All right. Well, we're gonna probably lose some of us momentarily for a second. We'll see. But we'll keep trucking.
They still have to download the client.
So we got Mesmerized. Target troop gets permanent. This can't ready. It is a basic action, which hurts it a little bit. It is high cost. It hurts a little bit. So it's like Blue's super conditional removal.
I like this one better than I like
Sorrow.
Well, much better than Sorrow, but it's not Blinding Light. It's what's our pacify again in Diamond?
Inner conflict.
I like this better than Inner Conflict because Inner Conflict allows them to still use any abilities and ready. This one will shut down any tap abilities and still prevent them from attacking and from blocking.
You still have to have gotten hit by it. It's the same reason I don't like Repel. Like I like Repel more than this, but the same reason I don't like Repel, I don't like this card is you have to have actually gotten hit with their guy once. Like they still get their activation out of the guy. You're not getting as much value.
Unless you can exhaust him.
Yeah, Inner Conflict, like it works aggressively if you're trying to go in on him. But yeah, like if you're attacking, you can Inner Conflict first, so remove a blocker. You can't do that with Mesmerize. There's just a lot you can't do with Mesmerize. Yeah, you'll still play it in Limited, but it's going to be that card that's probably like the 22nd and 23rd card of your deck that you're not super excited about.
Now our next one, we have another basic action, and this one is Mimic. Create a copy of a target troop and put it into play. That could be good.
Oh, it could definitely be good.
I like that card.
It's good from a lot of angles. Like even, I mean, it's just a fun flavor card, and it's got like the face-off part to it. Man, like that's it has to have a quote from Face-Off in the text. They have to add that in. Maybe that's a bug. I'm gonna submit that on the bug reports. Is missing Face-Off quote.
Now, and it's not just a copy of your own troop either, so you can start stealing opponents for 4 as well.
Yeah. Well, you're not stealing them. You're getting one yourself, but it's still cool.
I like that one. That's definitely got potential.
The fact that it's not just like, I guess what I'm saying is it's not a troop itself. It like still gets the comes into play effect if you're copying one with it. It's not where it's the troop comes into play and then copies something else. So I like it on that regards. Although from Clone, what Clone does is it can copy the card without targeting it. So that was always one of the strengths of Clone. Although that doesn't matter anymore. Now that they removed Legend Rule, which I think was stupid. I liked Legend Rule before. But, yeah.
Alright, so on our next one, it's a 5 for 3/4 Enlightened Troop, Monkey of the Nine Tails. So when this troop enters play, you may revert and then transform another target troop into Monkey of the Nine Tails. I think this is a good way to get rid of things that have been mesmerized, Inner Conflict, or just horribly debilitating.
Just turning a shitty card into a not so shitty card.
Yeah, I mean you're blanking their Inner Conflict after they played it. Like that's where I see this is you just kind of play the slate, you get your guy back, but yeah.
I mean, a 5 cost 3/4 is not good by any stretch of the imagination, but the revert and getting a 3/4 out of it could potentially be okay in certain situations.
I think it might make him a situational sideboard depending on the metagame. Because if the early control decks just love Inner Conflicts and Mesmerizes because we might not have all the best stuff yet, that could go in.
Yeah, I like Sophie's suggestion for flavor text. I don't know what I hate wearing worse, your face or your body. That's a good one.
All right, let's drop down to our next one. Mutate. You want to take this one, Function?
Sure. So permanently switch target troops attack with its defense, draw a card. So it's a quick action for 2. It cantrips itself, which is nice because it's like a super conditional removal. Although sometimes there's been times where in Magic this card was extremely good. Like it was played in constructed tournaments. I don't know if it was cost the same or if it cantripped when it did, but it was very similar. At least they were using it as a removal card to kill otherwise really hard to deal with threats where they had zero attack and a bunch of defense, and then they had some awesome ability on it. I can't even remember what the card was, but there was definitely a time where in Standard this was played, and it's a way to deal with cards that Sapphire isn't going to have access to otherwise, and it cantrips, so it kind of works. It works as a combat trick too. So
it's a wall killer. Then we have Mystic of the Tranquil Dream, a 4 for 2/4 socketable miner. I think the socket makes it playable and limited a little bit more, but it's still kind of rough.
Yeah, it was Twisted Image. It was 1 mana. I don't think it cantripped though, did it? It was just temporary. I can't remember what people were killing with it. People were saying Wall of Omens, but I don't think Wall of Omens was the card people were killing with it. Anyways, I can't remember. Yeah, I mean, it killed Wall of Omens, but that's like really bad. Spell Sky, that's what it was. Yeah. All right. Anyways. And birds. Yeah. I guess it was just it had a lot of targets at that time. Yeah, birds, Wall of Omens, Spell Sky. Alrighty.
It does not appear they've changed the gems at all yet.
Well, if they have, we don't know.
They haven't updated their site. Oh, shake.
So what were we looking at?
Mystic of the Tranquil Dream.
I mean, it's not the best socketable miner that we've seen, but it's also not the worst. So.
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I mean, it's got some, just like all the other socketed cards, it's got a lot of flexibility, like we were talking about last night. But yeah, like you were saying, it's not the best, and it's not the worst.
And then the last one on this row is the Necrotic Merchant, a 1/1/1 spell shield.
So we're kind of seeing like a cycle of 1-drops from every shard, and this is our Sapphire one. I don't know. If you buff him, he becomes interesting. Like put Wild Aura on him, or put, I don't know, maybe Sapphire Aura isn't quite as exciting, but there's at least something there maybe.
All right. Moving on down to our next row, we start off with Nuts and Bolts. This one's been spoiled for a while. It appears to be the same. It doesn't appear to undergo any changes. I think they made the art a little shinier.
It's actually pretty. I think it's going to be pretty decent in limited. Although, the big thing for me in limited is like I really like formats where like pseudo synergy or pseudo combo decks are draftable. The problem is though, since set 1 is so big, a lot of those kind of synergies you're not going to have access to as often as you might hope. And the dwarf decks, the artifact decks, really care about having a lot of stuff in play, or they're able to reduce the cost of cards and cool stuff like that. I guess what I'm getting at is sometimes your worker bots might not matter.
Sometimes the worker bots seem like they won't, but I look at it as your worker bot comes in, it's a 1/0/1 defensive, and the war bots themselves are not bad little attackers. So I mean, you're putting in 2 bodies, and 2 bodies matters for robots right now.
Oh, thanks, Gianni. So anybody who's in chat, check out the link there. You can start downloading the client. You might not have access, but you can at least download the client. But yeah, like you were saying, I think the big thing on Nuts and Bolts, if you're playing it, you need to have a way to actually utilize the worker bot, or else you're not getting much value up for a 5-cost card. Like robots need to matter in your deck if you're playing this one.
Yeah. And then we have Oracle Song, 3 for draw 2. I like it. I don't know how I'll maximize it yet, but I like it.
Well, okay, so like Oracle Song is my metric for comparing all the other card draw cards. So like, when is Necessary Sacrifice better than Oracle Song? There's definitely some times where, like we were saying, there's going to be a couple times where you want to play Necessary instead, or it becomes more powerful and you're really excited to play it, especially if your champion creates some sort of troop that you can easily sacrifice. Yeah, it's good, but Oracle Song is my metric for the other card draw cards. When you compare this to Pact of Pain, like it laughs at Pact of Pain. Like it just makes it look like the card that it actually is, where you're spending a lot just to get 2 cards. To make Pact of Pain better than Oracle Song, oh man, you have to commit a lot to do so. So I like Oracle Song. It's just like a vanilla card that it's just a necessary one. It's not incredible, and it'll be in some constructed decks, and it'll be pickable and limited. It's not a card you're super excited about, but it's a card that does something.
And then we have a 3 for 2/2 Flight in the Phoenix Guard Scout, riding another canary. This one appears to be a flaming canary, at least. Kind of. It's hard to tell if that's shader effect or not. Oh man, I think we totally lost Gwaer. he's already got the installer and it's working on it?
No, I do have the installer going, but I still have not gotten my email, which is sad because, like I said, the email I'm expecting, it starts with an A. I figured I would be on the top of the chain, but no.
Well, we will see.
So there's some confusion with that file. I'm gonna wait and get.
It does
more
appear to be the
thumbs up.
legit hex thing. I installed it.
Okay.
And it looks legit to me.
All right. Well, I'm gonna be away for a second while I click button.
All right. Well, while he is clicking buttons, we're going to take a look at the Phoenix Guard Trainer. This one is a 3/3/2 Inspire Human Ranger, and as another troop with cost equal to or greater than this troop enters play under your control, it gets permanent flight. I mean, a 3/3/2 is not the worst in the world, but it's still burn fodder. I guess have we seen better 3-drops in the Sapphire slot yet?
What we're looking at Phoenix Guard Trainer.
Yeah.
It almost made my list of top uncommons. It was close to making my top 10. It for limited when I was doing that video, and it's good if it stays in play. Like, the question with this is, how many cards do you need to inspire for this to become insane? I think even if you're inspiring one card, it suddenly becomes pretty good. I mean, if you're inspiring a 4-drop at least, like most of the 4-drops are going to be pretty noticeable. If you're inspiring a Buccaneer, that's pretty nice too. Yeah.
Yeah, all of a sudden Buccaneer comes in, bounces a troop, and can swing for flight.
Yeah. So I like that.
Now, our next one is a 7-cost, 2-threshold, 2/3. When it enters play, you create 3 echoes and put them into play.
So they changed this card. Before, it was copies of himself. So like it was a weird wording. Like, it was, if he comes into play from your hand, he creates the echoes. So that way, and they weren't called echoes. They were just, it created more profits. So they kind of cut out a lot of weird rules interactions by just making it a different card. Although, and they changed the stats. I think it was like a 1/7 or something, almost useless before. Now he's a 2/3. And you have to be, if you're playing this card, you have to be doing something really stupid. Like, when every time a troop comes into play, you draw a card, or every time a troop comes into play, you destroy one of your opponent's cards, or something like that. Like, in order for this to become better than all the other 7-drops, you have to be really doing something with them.
Now, before he only created, did he still create 4 creatures in his old wording?
Yeah, I think it created 4 total, himself and 3 others.
So, I mean, this one and the Echo, do they still have the same stats as this guy does?
I'm checking right now if Echo's in the file.
Because the thought of it is,
I don't see it in there.
Because if you're playing this guy, if you're doing it for 7, you're really wanting to trigger a lot of Inspire effects with this guy off the top of my head here. You want him to come in, you want him to hit multiple Inspires. You may have Inspire, or the one that brings the Inspires from the graveyard.
Yeah, so we could assume that the Echoes are the same. What would be really cool for me on this one is, so like, the guy on the left is green, the guy on the right, he looks like he might be a blood card. There's a little purple there. The guy in the front is shooting out fire. Like, what would be awesome is when you play this guy, if you got like 4 different cards and they all had like some unique aspect to them. So like, this guy puts the other 3 into play. The fire one does 2 damage to something. The blood one deals 2 damage to yourself and draws you a card, and the green one like gives you 3 life. I mean, those are all kind of a lot of those abilities counteract each other, but what I would like to see is if each one of them had some flavor aspect to them, so they're not all the same. That would be cool. It wouldn't be, amazing, but it would at least be really cool. Actually, like, that would get me pretty excited about the card.
Yeah, and if they haven't spoiled the Echoes yet, maybe, they're still working on them, so.
Yeah.
Now, our next one, Replicator's Gambit. They changed the art on this guy. So it's
Yeah,
it's basic shuffle target,
Actually-
troop, and control.
they didn't change the art. The other one is a
Oh,
promo.
it's the alternate art. You're right.
Yeah.
So when this troop enters play, if you played it from your hand, create 6 copies of it and put them into play. Draw a card. Now the other one was still a basic action, right?
I believe so. I'm not certain, but I believe so. Like it's basically all I would say is it's still a Replicator's Gambit.
Mhm.
Like it's a fun, cool card. Whether it's good is probably up for debate. I would say it's kind of a do nothing. At least it cantrips, but you are losing whatever you took out of play. And if it was something good, which is what you're gonna want, because you're gonna want Gambit when you get it back to do something, unless you're able to guarantee that you're drawing that card by tutoring for it or something like that. It might be a little do nothing.
Yeah, I think it's a do nothing now that is going to cause shenanigans later, because it's just going to, as things get released, it's going to get more and more viable.
All right, so while we're downloading the client, we just had another fan site person jump in. We got Hyena in here now too. There's
Hi,
all kinds
Hyena.
of fan site people. By the way, Hyena did like an awesome limerick or poem on the lore thing earlier, and it totally kind of. I was gonna post my trolley headless executioner lore story, but instead I read his, and I read something more worthwhile than my lame post.
Well, like, because we were going back and forth on Twitter, and he's like, "What am I going to do now?" And I'll be like, "Go write fan fiction. You're good at that." I said it a little nicer than that. But then he went and did it. Show me up, why don't you, Hyena? Which it was really good. If y'all haven't, go to his site there. Hey, Hyena, you have permission to link your site so that people can go check out your stuff.
Yeah, link the if either Shaggy or John are still on here, link the post you made earlier, like the one about strongest card spoiled. I thought it was a cool post.
Yeah, I mean, link your main sites in here. We're all a big community. Everyone go check out everyone's stuff. Open them up in other windows. Listen at the same time.
Yeah, help us kill some time while we're waiting to get our invites and whatnot.
So I've gotten one of the 2 invites that I am expecting, and the client is 44% downloaded. That's the situation.
Nice.
Yeah. What do I got? I'm at 26%. I started a little later than you.
Let's see.
Kenny G and Coldplay. Oh, fail. All right, so let's keep moving. Where were we?
Yes, so we are now at Research Librarian.
Research Librarian. Well, I'll let one of you guys spoil the card at least.
All right, Gwaer, it's your turn. Go for it.
All right, it's a 4-cost, 1 Sapphire Threshold troop. It's a 2/3, and it has, when this troop enters play, if you control an artifact, draw a card.
So my funny note about this is, way back when there was like a client. I know there's a couple guilds or just other folks that built their own clients to play the game while we were waiting, and there was roaming around. There was a way to draft and do that, but the set was super small. There were only like 120 cards spoiled, and at that point, like this card was insane because there were so few cards spoiled. You could almost always draft tons and tons of robots if you had this card, and it was easy, so on that one. So in that case, this card was pretty insane, and me having seen that, like, I'm always going to have that in my head, kind of skewing my view. So this might actually be a horrible card, but having just seen it in that vacuum is probably, it almost hurts me that I played the client when it was that bad mode client.
Well, now the fun part about the librarian is that he's not robot specific, he's artifact specific, and that makes a difference with the dwarves now. So you can drop your artifacts, you can get your once per turn draw for effective, mid game or so, and it's going to matter, that card advantage.
It's like in limited. If you can get one activation out of it, you're probably going to get a lot of activations out of it. Like, it's that card that you're basically either drawing a lot of cards off it or you're not drawing any at all. And it's easy to remove, so it's easy to deal with. But if they don't deal with it, you're going to get your cards off it. It's important to note, it's a basic action, so you can't use it during your own turn and use it during your opponent's. But it's not a bad card. If you can make it work, it's going to do things for you.
And then our next guy right there is the Research Adept. Another dwarf. This guy's a warlock, a 4 for 2/3. And that 3 matters on this guy, in my opinion. We've had so many 2s that are just so easy to kill. When he drops into play, artifact, draw a card.
What do you think, Gwaer?
I agree with everything they both said.
Yeah. So on Researcher Adept, well, we didn't even really say anything. You're getting so trolled.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I actually was hoping that you guys disagreed because I was totally doing something else.
Yeah. So all I would say about Research Adept is like it's easier to guarantee you get the card rather than with like Research Librarian.
Mm-hmm.
So you're more likely to consistently get that one card off him. But I am less excited about Researcher Adept.
Well, and I guess that's the reason why he's a common.
I don't think he's a great troop. Yeah, I mean he's probably fine for a common. A 2/3 for 4 is not terrible. You also get a draw. That's good. That's good. I don't know.
It's really easy
it's
to guarantee
average.
that you draw the card because like you're playing the champion that puts a worker bot into play. You're always going to get the card.
All right. Our next one is Sabotage. Basic action, put 4 booby traps and then shuffle them into a target opposing champion's deck.
I definitely think that this is one of the cards that makes mill potentially a viable strategy. Without it, I've never been a big fan of mill, but at least this way you're also dealing damage to the guy if you're milling out a bunch of cards, so you can potentially push it over the edge with some troops or something you have.
I think it's going to be fun. I don't think it's going to do as well in raiding when it comes around. I don't think it'll make any PvE raid decks. It might be good on some of the dungeons, but we'll see how it rolls.
I was looking away for a second. We're talking about Sabotage.
Yes.
Okay, so here's the best possible case for Sabotage. Is you able to sabotage your opponent. You've already played 1 Relentless Corruption. Well, actually, you've played 3 Relentless Corruptions. You play your 4th, or however many Relentless Corruptions you need to draw 4 cards. You play it right after. You draw 4 cards. They're all booby traps, and you kill yourself. That's awesome.
Oh, all right. You just want Sabotage to be a giant whiff.
Don't play Relentless Corruption and Sabotage in the same
deck. Yeah, no.
Just don't do that.
So watch out for your Blood Sapphire combos. Yeah, I can definitely see it making mill a lot more dangerous. We were getting plenty of that part in the chat. I like it. I don't know if I'm willing to throw it into a mill deck yet. There's a lot of mill options out there, but I bet once this gets tuned, it's going to be interesting to play with. Maybe not against, because no one likes getting sabotaged.
Sabotage is actually one of the cards that got me really excited about the game. It was one of the cards they spoiled pretty early in the Kickstarter. What's best about Sabotage isn't whether it's viable or not or what it does, is that it's letting you put cards into your opponent's deck. Like, that's not something you could do in a TCG. If I did that, I would get banned from the tournament, It's cool. Like, it's doing something that other games weren't able to do.
Agreed. Now we get to move on to one of my favorite cards, and I'll warn you now, there's a high chance I'm going to name this as my favorite in Sapphire. It's Space Dolphin. I heart Space Dolphin.
You and me wasted so much time talking about this card.
Yes, but it's Space Dolphin. No one can stop Space Dolphin. It's a 3 cost, 1 threshold Sapphire aura, quick action, +1/+1, and flight. It's Space Dolphin.
It's Flipper in space.
I mean, I think it's just a normal dolphin that someone has put a Sapphire aura on and given it space powers. So,
yeah, Space Dolphin. He's not alien Space Dolphin. How do you think they got out of there on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Oh, that was good. Dolphin's name is Flapper. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well played.
Well played, Ice. Well played.
So, if he flies into the water, do his wings stop working?
I think they would work like giant fins.
Oh man, twice as
An
powerful.
underwater fly.
But no, when a bird gets wet, it can't fly because it's all weighted down.
That's because it has feathers. He doesn't have feathers. He
Those
has
totally look like they
energy.
have
yes,
energy
but
feathers.
They're energy feathers, though.
Energy feathers don't get wet.
See, like the Storm Colossus, that one is just pure energy. It doesn't have feathers. Like these ones are energy feathers.
I imagine the Storm Colossus would have a harder time flying underwater than the Sapphire Aura'd.
Yeah, actually,
Dolphin.
kind of. Well, because he's a Storm Colossus, I imagine if he
Right.
touches water.
Exactly. So,
Yeah. Okay.
on the other hand, you can give your Sapphire Aura to your new Dingler.
Yes, you can, and actually make him useful. He'll be able to be a 1/2 flyer.
With
So-
flight.
Like you were getting at yesterday, is it's important that it has the revert and then transform, so it doesn't just kill the guy if it was already had like a -1/-1 on it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that might be a little OP.
Better than Sorrow. Dinkler's all right. I mean, it's it's worse than most of the other direct removal and other colors, but I
You
think
know
it's
what?
kind
I
of why it's
think
uncommon.
This
highly
would be
costly.
better is against the Storm guy, the 6th cost green guy that's invincible. Just turn him into a Dingler, then kill him.
Sure. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, so,
because invincible doesn't mean it can't be transformed.
It's it deals with some of the harder to deal threats, definitely.
Well, it got its place. Our next one, though, is Storm Colossus. 7 costs, 3 threshold, flight, spell shield for 6/6.
This is quite a strong card in my opinion. I mean, he's 7 cost. That's higher than I'm gonna go in like limited or something like that. But
Mhm.
still, I mean, 6/6 for 7 with flight and spell shield is nothing to sneeze at, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think
that's
We were
cool.
looking at that demon last night and having
Mhm.
a hard time with him. I like this guy more than that demon. He's not as big a body, but the spell shield means he's not going to die right when he comes into play.
Well, yeah, because it means he can't be murdered, he can't be dinglered, he can't be burned, he can't be rage fired. You have to deal with him the old-fashioned way, and he's got basic evasion on there, so which means your old-fashioned way has to be flying.
So he's a
I
potential
may
win
like
condition.
him more than the 6th threshold invincible guy. I mean, they're both quite strong.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on down to Storm Call. We've seen this one. It was spoiled with the Gen Con decks. Oh, we need to move past this one because I want to talk about Technical Genius. So X cost 2
Exhaust X
threshold.
troops. I mean, it's honestly a pretty good card. If you're exhausting, go for it. It's not bad.
Yeah.
Nice art, look great. Probably look fantastic foil. Extended art will probably look nice. Technical Genius, 2 cost, 1 threshold. Pay 1 less for artifacts, but he's now a 1/2.
Where's yeah, he's not a 1/3. Before when they changed him, I was like, well, making him a 1/3 is actually a buff. You need to be able to block all those 1-drops. Like making him a 1/2, oh, that's rough. He was really strong before. Where's Wordle? Wordle needs to be in here so we can talk about him wasting, being productive on our contest and
Yes.
spending all kinds of time on it.
I don't know. I mean, because the 1/3 was just such a powerful defense, and the more we've seen of the set, the more that it's come across as a powerful defensive value. He dies so much faster now. Yay! One of our guys got an email. Leave the stream on in the background while downloading.
Yeah, I'm waiting for mine. Colin's got to hit me up soon.
So
He's probably on the plane now, though. Yeah, I've fallen by the wayside.
Alrighty.
All right, I'm at 60%.
Okay. Now the fun part is if I try to get the client downloaded myself while everything's going on, it's going to blink and mess things up, and I want everyone to see our wonderful pictures without things getting screwed up. So after the stream is when I'll start downloading, since I'm low on the totem pole.
So what do we got? Ancestors Chosen. The big thing, all I want to say about him is people need to stop saying that. Well, they don't need to stop saying it. Like everybody going, oh well, it's a cantrip. Like the thing that it puts into play, it's not a cantrip. I've seen it a million times. What it is it's because it's not thinning your deck out. It's just adding an extra ability to the card you would have drawn anyway. So resources all of a sudden become pay 1 to put this resource into play. It draws you a card and gives you, or No, it doesn't draw your card. It puts a 2/2 into play with it. It's really all the cards you would have drawn now cost one more, but they put a 2/2 flyer into play, which is really good.
Until they start costing 2 or 3 or 4 more because you're pulling them repeatedly. I did have that happen one time at Gen Con. So I mean, it does thicken your deck a bit. I mean, that is a thing that can happen. You can get 2 or 3 in a row, but honestly, that's not a bad thing. I mean, I honestly think that's better than whatever you were going to play, most likely.
I'm worried about this in my Pack Raptor as much as I love talking about him, that how much he thickens the deck to be able to accomplish his goal. But Ancestors Chosen, I also had the same hesitation, and Funktion and I went around on this over and over a couple times, and he pulled me around on Ancestors Chosen because I know I called it a cantrip multiple times, and then he got mad at me, and then we fought it out over like the next 10 minutes. But I've really come around to like Ancestors Chosen, just because of that one cost for a 2/2 flyer that draws. I mean, even though it is an additional cost in whatever you would have drawn anyway, so many of the cards we've seen, like, just get better by going 2 bodies, 2/2 flyer, and whatever it was. Like,
well,
if you had a vanilla,
resource, it's good.
Well, yeah, not even just that. So if you had just like a vanilla troop, well, now your vanilla troop is, for 1 cost extra, 2/2 flyer.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I think
a lot of games like top decking that resource is underwhelming. But when you draw the Spectre and then a resource, you're like, oh, all right, well, at least I did something this turn. But yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, like, the cards it puts into your deck, like, it makes this guy a lot more similar to Shrine of Prosperity than actually a cantrip.
Alrighty, now we're going to scroll down. If you watched last night, we've already covered Unmerciful Tormentor. We're not quite sure why he got put down here in all of the beautiful Sapphire cards, but we're going to move on to Thunderbird, a 2-for-1/1 Flight Rage 1. Common.
This guy is incredible. I'd first pick him most times. Okay, probably not first pick. It really depends on what the rare slot is, but I like this guy in Limited a lot.
We were saying Thunderbird?
Yeah, Thunderbird.
Sorry, I was checking my email again, crossing my fingers. Yeah, no, Thunderbird, I think everybody agrees it's pretty much a limited bomb. Like, it's really strong, really aggressive. It does get blocked by, like, Giant Corpse Fly, which makes Giant Corpse Fly pretty good, in my opinion. I mean, it gets blocked easily, but that's a lot of everything. That's not a point against it, you know? It's still a good card.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have made an awful lot of good commentary and strategy about Thunderbird. We don't want to beat everything into the ground.
Yeah.
But we got Time Ripple, a 3-cost, 1 threshold quick action, puts a target card into its owner's hand, and it gets permanent cost +1.
So if you're using it on a troop, it's strictly, well, it's not even strictly, because it's a quick action. So if you're using it on a troop, it's in some regards weaker than Buccaneer, but it's got a quick action, so that's good. But the fact that it can hit other cards is what makes it good.
So you can throw in, you can hit those zombie plagues turn 3 to keep them from hitting you as well. Throw a tempo off that way. You can't target resources that way, I don't believe. So you're looking at hitting artifacts, troops, and constants with this card, right?
Yep.
Hey, another form of constant removal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's the making stuff cost 1 extra is definitely, you know, I mean, that's gonna be relevant. If you're playing tempo and then you play demolition or something, they might not be able to play the card, or it's just good in tempo. Like, it makes their next turn a little awkward for them. So
very much so. Now we have Wizard of the Silver Talon, the 4-for-2/3. When it comes into play, put a Silver Talon Senator. Are birds called senators? That's weird. And put those into play. I apparently need to brush up on my falconry.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't called a Silver Talon Senator before. So, like, this is the bird that's responsible for the government shutdown.
Exactly. It's all the bird's fault. I bet he's a Republican. Never mind, he's in the blue slot. It's Not bad. I mean, the extra body's good. It responds. It's got the 4 cost to be able to take advantage of quite a few of the Inspire effects, which make the bird even better. I think the bird's got a 2 cost, so it won't take on the same Inspire effects when it comes into play. But it can still take on like your 2s and your 1s, so you could give it Steadfast. You can give it the +1 defense.
Yeah.
And it's getting the wizard's attack to start off with, which means it'll still pick up on your swords, your plus attack one from the sword to Inspire.
All right, so we got next one. We got yesterday, which the picture is really cool. I like the clouds in the background of the clock. That's pretty cool, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, this is actually a pretty strong card. It costing 5 it's expensive, but when it's good, it's really good. And maybe you're playing it in a deck that doesn't run any troops at all, and this is just a good way to help yourself stabilize. Or maybe you're running it with a bunch of your own troops that comes into play effects, and you're kind of stopping your opponent's aggression. It's just like there's a lot of flexible options for this card, and there's a lot of situations where it becomes extremely, extremely good.
Yeah, I mean, Sapphire has a lot of really good, like, you can use this to help cycle your Buccaneers, too.
Yeah.
You know, you play a Buccaneer, you've made sure that they didn't get ganked or you didn't have to chump block with them. They've got their army. Oh, yesterday none of this was in play. Boop, it all comes up, and then you just tempo them back out.
So then we're on to the last Sapphire card, and this is a good one because I'm not sure if this is actually hashtag better than Sorrow. It might be. I don't know.
If you hit it with the Sorrow, it still hits for 1 damage.
Yeah.
And it will survive. I mean, it's got 5 defense.
This just goes into that category of, like, if you're playing this card, oh man, like, what else did you not have in your deck? Like, what did you choose this over? Why didn't you just include one more resource in your deck? Like this, I still liked it even more when that Grimskull Sorcerer was pretty much identical to this card, but it cost 3. It's like, oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it's a vanilla troop. Maybe it's like the Lobby vanilla trap. This is how you learn not to play certain cards.
Yeah, which it seems like Sapphire got, like I said, the bulk of those cards.
Alrighty, so we've already covered Wild, but we have not touched on the artifacts yet. Are both of y'all ready to do a little bit of artifact digging?
I think we're both distracted by things.
Well, that's fine. I want to take us up there anyway.
I'm ready to do artifact digging.
Yay! Okay.